Travis Wayne Goodsell. Okay, let's help you decode Mormon scripture. Joseph Smith, Hyrum were assassinated for this information. Mormons at least owe them respect rather than their denials and refusals to believe. Likewise, I have sacrificed my life to give you this information. So let's start with the Joseph Smith history. This is going to be long. Owing to the many reports which have been put in circulation by evil-disposed and designing persons in relation to the rise and progress of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, all of which have been designed by the authors thereof to militate against its character as a church and its progress in the world. So notice that people are purposely being incited to violence against Joseph Smith by 1838 because of publications that are being printed. Now, it is essential to understand there's a real church history. He lived, and so he had physical existence and a physical life to live to 1838, and then when he was assassinated on June 27th, 1844. That should not be in dispute. There should not be any Joseph Smith deniers. He never existed. The whole church is based on a myth. That would be funny if there were Joseph Smith deniers. It's all a conspiracy plot from Soros and the deep state dams. Dear God, people actually believe these nutcases who spread lies. But nothing's changed. The same thing back in Joseph's day. And so, yes, there was lots of hatred and violence, and tar and feathering, and other such violent acts that were going on. Now, when you learn the real church history, you understand what he's talking about here in his 1838 version. Because he says in this history, I have been induced to write this history to disabuse the public mind and put all inquirers after truth in possession of the facts as they have transpired in relation to both myself and the church. What this is already known to have not happened. I've even introduced other things that did not happen, places that did not happen, people that did not do what they're said to have done. It's because this history is coded. And so, yes, he's telling us the truth, but you got to decode it to learn the real history. And so, before we get to going over decoding Joseph Smith history, which is necessary in order to decode the Book of Mormon, we need to do some actual research. And I've already got all the answers, so I'm just going to go over it with you to save some bit of time, because I'm going to battle throughout this video with the video quality. Bad enough I have the fan from when I was first attempted to be assassinated under orders of the church, and nobody believed me. They shut down my website and nobody believed me. They silenced me on YouTube and nobody believes me. I'm sacrificing my life for you guys and nobody believes me. I told you when I saw this that this was a death threat and nobody believed me. God. So we start in Vermont. Joseph Smith does. He was born in the year of our Lord, 1805, on the 23rd day of December, in Sharon, Windsor County, state of Vermont. Now, if you're going to do your research, you've got to confirm the location of Sharon, Windsor County, New York, or Vermont. 4 o'clock in the morning, after my run. And so, yes, you'll find it on the map. It still exists. It's there. It's real. And as I've done the videos to try to help you learn how to do research on church history, getting several papers, or if you have a Word program, use the Word program to set up a file system for each character who's introduced, each location that is introduced, each date that is introduced, so that you can have everything in columns and events as well, so that you can cross-reference when other people say that they were involved in an event in the same location as somebody else, but don't mention the somebody else. Case in point, Joseph Smith Sr. and Heber C. Kimball. Heber C. Kimball says he was involved in an event in the same location with Sr. Sr. doesn't mention him, ever. Heber doesn't mention him, because he leaves the name anonymous, doesn't mention the name. Says the records were destroyed, so we're out of luck. We just have to trust him. And yet, we have those records. We know he didn't get approved. He didn't even apply. But before we get to that, what was Senior doing? He's got a family, got married, that's why he's there. What are the names of his kids? You know, we know Joseph, we know Hyrum, spelled Hyram, or U-M. Oops. Almost gave it away too early. Spoiler alert. And he had Alvin. And then there was William and Samuel and Don Carlos. And then there was Sophronia and others. Can't remember offhand. So. But did you know that people used to name people because of the meaning of the names? Yeah, we don't do that anymore, do we? When we name our kid, it's whatever's cool and popular and hip, hoping that our kid would grow up and not be teased for their name when they go to school. Right? We don't care about the meaning, and we don't even care about the spelling anymore. Give them a name. Well, our names have meaning, unless they're created out of nothing. Creatio ex nihilo. Joseph. obviously Joseph of Egypt from the Bible. It's a Bible name. You know, the one where he was the birthright blessing son through the favored wife, Rachel. And so yes, all of you are going, oh yeah, Joseph in the Book of Mormon talks about Joseph of Egypt saying there will be a Joseph son of Joseph, right? We've decoded it. Yay! Almost. Don't jump ahead. You're going to get yourself confused eventually. And what religion was he? Was he just a drunken bum, as the one female author decided to label him as? Was he just irreligious altogether? Do you know we have clues as to what religion he was? He was a part of a religion. He was a religious man. So what was that woman thinking when she was writing her book to shame his name? Oh, well, she made Lucy look good. That's all that matters. She was the glue that held the family together. See, women were property back then. They didn't have rights. And it's disgusting to see people impose current morality and freedoms upon the past. I mean, it makes for a great Jungle Cruise movie. Pants. But it's not historically accurate, and it is misinformation about what was really going on during the time period. And so Joseph Smith Sr. was responsible for the family. That's why he kept trying to make money to support the family. And yes, it was tough. You've heard about the year, or the summer without a summer, because of the volcano in the Philippines. Well, he tried to grow the crops the previous 2 years, also with no effect. And then that 1 year, and then the following year after that, he was ruined. And the state of Vermont kicked him out, and thus they moved to Palmyra. But his religion has many clues that people don't know about until they heard that Madonna decided to become a Jew. Not an Orthodox Jew, a Jewish mystic. Now all of a sudden everybody wants to know what Jewish mysticism is all about. Interestingly, the conception of Madonna is tomorrow. But we're jumping ahead. Isn't it interesting how it's 17th days until the birth on Christmas? What's up with that? We're getting to that. I hope. I don't have a whole string of pages of notes. You know, my brother had a 10-page resume. It's amazing he even got an adjunct professor job at the University of Utah. One page, so that they can see the information they're looking for and know to hire you. One page. You got to do multiple pages. See attachments, because they're not going to look unless they need to look. But you have it on the one page. And then he goes and loses 15 million Mormons. Causes Nelson to cancel the membership stats. Hilarious, I digress. Good job, Todd. You're making history for the church, for our family in another way. I'm sacrificing my life to warn Mormons about the Book of Mormon's warning for right now, and you're losing Mormons. It's hilarious. It's just unbelievable how none of you realize our family's connection to the church. And the influence on your lives. Hilarious. And so, I'm sure there are those of you who've heard that Joseph Smith Sr. had a Tree of Life dream. Several, in fact, as he records in his published journal. As Lucy Mack also did a book about her journal. And there's some weird things going on in her journal. As the church edited it, and had to be re-released with the edited portions put back in. But yeah, she says that Senior had dreams about the Tree of Life. Well, that's strange. That's in the Book of Mormon. Oh, well, they cover it up by saying, oh, well, because Joseph Jr.'s Book of Mormon, we were reading about the Tree of Life, and they were so similar to Senior's dreams, we decided to join the church. Huh? Sure you did. That has to do with the 116 pages, remember? The original were lost, and so that had to be rewritten, remember? So what if the 116 pages weren't lost? Oh no, no Tree of Life. Maybe the Smith Sr. and Lucy would never have joined the church. They'd have to find another excuse to join, huh? That's why the Lord was pissed with Junior for losing the first 116. But I'm jumping ahead. And Senior was also changing the meaning of his kids with Hyrum. See, first you have Alvin, that's an elf from the elven community. I can't remember her name from Lord of the Rings, the elves. But yeah, Alvin, elvens. That's where it originates from. And so it seems kind of strange that we go from that meaning for their firstborn to Hyrum. And interestingly enough, the courts have to use the actual name and the spelling of the name of the persons involved. It's Hiram. Huh. Well, that's unusual. Why is it now Hyrum? It's because of this thing called Freemasonry. And so, with the name change, we see Joseph Smith Sr. either was attending meetings as often his occasion would permit, or became a member in Vermont. And so now we have to ask ourselves, well, what is the York Rites all about? I mean, Freemasonry all about. And so yes, see, I'm jumping ahead because I already know the answers. You'll learn that there are different types of lodges. The two main ones in the United States, the ones that most people were involved with, there George Washington was involved in a third different version, but the Scottish Rites and the York Rites were the main lodges. Now, things were different back then. If you try to study current Freemasonry, you're going to get confused because you're going to incorrectly impose current knowledge onto the past. And so it's important to know that you can't impose anachronisms on the past. That's what it's called. When you put something in a more current context of the author and impose it on the author of the past, 10 issues among the Nephites, it's a fiction, obviously, but if somebody were to find it in the future and did not know it was what's called fiction, they would think that the ancient indigenous people of America wore tennis shoes, as people are able to time travel. I never read the books. I have no idea if that's what it's about. I'm assuming from the title, as it's something probably all of you have read. And you should be ashamed. And now you'll go and buy their books and make them lots of money, just to spite me for Christmas. Oh, the video is saved. This was my journal vlog from last night. So hold on just a minute. And we're done. Alright. And so you learn about the Scottish Rites. They have degrees. 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree, 4, 5 degrees, 6 degrees, 7 degree, more, all the way up to 32. 33rd degree, as you've heard from other misinformers, purposely trying to deceive you, is an honorary degree. Once you reach the 30th degree, if any of the other 30 degrees to 32 degrees vote for you to become an honorary 33 degree Mason, great, you're in. But it's only for that exclusive club. But the highest degree is 32. And so they have different names for each of the degrees. And Prince of Jerusalem is in there. It's not the highest. Huh. Postmaster General? It's something like that, I think. That's, I think, one of the highest. But then you find out, wait a minute, in different locations in the eastern United States, they had some variation in the naming of the particular ranks. And so when you get to Western New York, you have to distinguish that, as I made an error in the beginning. I didn't realize that, because I just saw the instant stuff that I found and didn't realize I had to keep digging to learn that there were different types. And so that's why it's important to have everything written down and make corrections as you keep researching. And so yes, Western New York, back in those days, had a different ranking as a result. And so, is that the one that Joseph Sr. was involved in? You need to find out. Which one is it? Is it the Scottish Rites with 33 degree Masons and all of the devil stuff that comes from it, with Lucifer and Illuminati and and light bearer. Is that the one? Because if you generalize and just say, oh yeah, all Freemasonry is bad, you also deceive yourself. And you deceive others when you spread that misinformation. That's why I keep making corrections when I learn new information that corrects the record. And so the books that I published, and the manner in which I published, was I did it pretty much a chapter at a time for publication. 24 pages is the minimum. And so, unlike my brother, his resume isn't long enough yet to be published on Amazon. Mine is, if I were to disregard my own counsel and do one page. But yeah, my resume is easily publishable. And Sophia has never reached out to me on YouTube. It was November. I did the video. Where is she? She's interested in my brain. She's female. We're both single, aren't we? Where are you? Sophia! Wisdom! Sophronia. Wisdom. We're getting to that. That's the religion. And as you learn about Hyrum, you learn about the ceremony in Freemasonry, about the death of a man in their passion play, of a man who was murdered at the Temple of Solomon. And so everybody who's in attendance gets involved. It's a murder mystery, whodunit. And then you have the ceremonies with the casket and all that stuff as part of the ritual and the symbolism behind the meaning that they have for that. And you learn about Egyptian, that the dead man is Osiris. And so Solomon's temple is Egyptian? Isn't that interesting? This is where it's coming to all my videos, not just selected ones that YouTube allows you to see. Following my channel, not just picking and choosing. Because then we get to talk about the David Moses dynasty of Egypt. But I'm decoding for you. We're supposed to give you the real church history first. The real history. And so the Yorkites are different. The Yorkites have far less ranks, and for the Yorkites, the highest rank is the Knights Templar. Now, I'm sure you've seen National Treasure, and I'm sure you've seen Da Vinci Code with Dan Brown's popular book. But you need to understand, Hollywood does artistic liberties. So if you're going to rely on them for accurate historical information, as Christians did, and so that they can mock and condemn Dan Brown for misinformation, you're going to be wrong, Christians. It's not Jesus that Sophie Neveu was a descendant of. It was King David through Solomon. I'm jumping ahead again. looks like we're going to have some interruptions here for a moment. So let me stop this. Let me take care of this. It'll make it easier to upload all these clips. Alright. To pursue knowledge, there's a scientific process that is necessary to utilize in your research, even for church history. You first have to identify patterns. When you come across anomalies, you then have to develop a theory that would explain the anomaly. But the theory must have a test for confirmation. Without that test, it's just some nutcase throwing something out to cause misinformation and disinformation, and then ruin the definition of what a theory is, and ruin the definition of a conspiracy theory, etc., etc., etc. And so we can use this method to look for patterns to determine which lodge Smith Sr. was a part of. If it was the Scottish Rites or the York Rites with the Knights Templar. And so with the Scottish Rites, Jacobite is the mythological founder of that lodge. And so we see Jacob in the Book of Mormon. You know, we have Nephi building Solomon's temple, except without the gold and silver, because he says there is no gold and silver, but then in a few verses says there's a gold and silver in abundance. Just was hilarious. Even as a kid, I'm like, what? What? You just, what? What's going on? And so, yeah, there's some obvious patterns with Scottish Rites. But there's also York Rites, Knights Templar. And now to understand the connection, you now have to go back and learn about the Knights Templar. Wikipedia is a little misleading. They left out some stuff. They even took some stuff out from their original. Somebody changed it within the last several years. Because the Knights Templar, to do it in short, and there are people who claim it's the king, not the Pope. The Pope is innocent. The Pope is not innocent. He was the one that encouraged the king to get involved because of his accusations of them worshiping this new creation he made called Baphomet. But the Knights Templar were commissioned by an original pope, and I don't know the names, I don't have it up on the screen, and I've ruined the viewing picture by pulling up the internet, so I'll just summarize it for you. He commissioned what then became, well, they weren't Knights Templar yet. Originally they were Opus Dei, as Dan Brown talks about Opus Dei, and he uses correct thing, but then screws everything up. And so, yeah, King Arthur, legends, as the movie tries to claim, oh, this is based on archaeological evidence. No. Canterbury Tales are an attempt to write scripture in the manner in which scripture was written. King Arthur is the Christ, and his round table are with the disciples. Brave Sir Robin ran away. I'm gonna get sidetracked. and so, yeah, even Indiana Jones. You have chosen wisely. You have selected the right Holy Grail. It's humble and pure, not wealthy and gaudy. No, it is Dan Brown's correct information about a bloodline, but not from Jesus. And this is where we get into the religious part of it. But yeah, the Knights Templar were religious. The Pope's religious. He sent them to go to Jerusalem, to the temple ruins, for a mission. They went, they dug, they found something, they stopped digging, they came back to the Pope in a secret chamber meeting, where afterwards they are then knighted Knights Templar. And they are put in charge of protecting pilgrims to Jerusalem for the annual feasts. And so the Knights Templar get filthy rich because people need food and protection, and so yeah, the Knights Templar provide that and get filthy rich. And so when this other pope decides that he needs to put an end to these Knights Templar on the 13th, which in the Julian calendar was a Thursday, but we call it Friday the 13th. So no, resist. I will not give clues. I will not reveal it. I do not want it ruined as much as it needs to be known, as much as it needs to be warned about. I did the video. I did upload it for you. I know something. And there are multiple fields of study, all converging on this one particular thing that I cannot disclose, because I've saved your lives. You don't believe, but that's why I was doing 22 September, 22 September, 22 September, 22 September, over and over and over and over and over again. And you can see where YouTube stepped in to try to stop me, to silence me. And then the church got cyber terrorists that officially shut me down. And it's not just because of conference that they were trying to silence me. It was September 22nd. September 22nd. I had exposed the date that we're going to get to. And my purpose in doing so was that back in 2017, I noticed that when I discovered something, both a certain national executive and the Mormon Church would cancel. And so, and then of course the national executive would claim fake news. But oh, was he humiliated with the oranges of the investigation. And nobody believes. Nobody, the news, clueless. You know, the news finally figured out that Trump was getting his information from Fox. Duh. And so why isn't Ainsley Earhart locked in prison right now for having Trump attack Syria that one day when she was talking to Geraldo Rivera? God, you just betrayed America. And she's not locked up? Well, at least she got divorced. Well, he divorced her, I think. Good for you. Get away from her. She's just a pretty face. That's it. Enemy to this nation. Why doesn't he just bomb Syria to distract from Comey's book? Anyway, I digress. Again. And so we're trying to find out about the Knights Templar with Joseph Smith, right? To see if there's a pattern match and explain anomalies through testing of the theory. And so the Knights Templar are, the Pope is jealous. He's the leader of the church, not the Knights Templar. He's the vicar of God, not the Knights Templar. And so, yes, he accuses them of worshiping Baphomet and says that they're not being loyal to the church, that they are worshiping the Egyptian deities and using the Egyptian scriptures rather than the Bible. And then, yes, gets the one king involved, and Friday the 13th, which was Thursday in the Julian calendar. And there was a group of Knights Templar, because most of them got away. And they weren't all rounded up. Only a few of them got caught and tortured to confess that Jesus is the Christ. You can choose. You have your agency. We can stop this punishment if you'll just confess and choose. You ever listen to the Mormon prophets talking about agency? Oh yeah, you're free to choose. They've turned the other kingdoms of glory into hell. And so a group goes to an island off of the Finland coast. And there, they know rune language. They alter it to make it Knights Templar rune, and they get the help with the Vikings to sail the Atlantic Ocean, and so they're already coming to America. And the Kensington Stone in Minnesota, whatever is next to the Dakotas. Oh, associative memory. I purposely did not want to memorize, but we were forced to memorize the states and where they were located and the capital of each state. And our final test was a blank United States map with at least the lines for each state division, and we were supposed to fill it in. That was our final test. Man, that was stressful. I think I missed one. I can't remember which. I'm pretty sure it was a capital. But anyway. how time flies, and we forget. Little by little. Losing the spirit. I'm becoming apostate. The Kensington Stone is a property marker. The Knights Templar have rune language with Knights Templar alteration. You know, like the Book of Mormon says the Hebrew and Egyptian have been altered by us. The rune had been altered by the Knights Templar. And it has the Knights Templar rune dating of 1363. Right there in America. A land purchase. The land was the eastern half of the United States of America. Why? Well, soon after that purchase, a certain Indian tribe in southern Illinois area disappeared. And it's now called Little Egypt. And there's myth that the Knights Templar buried Egyptian gold plates in those cave systems down there. Already, bells should be ringing, light bulbs turning on. Don't jump the gun. We're only trying to find out if they're York rites or Scottish rites. And so this native Indian tribe, and I can't say indigenous because they're not indigenous. They weren't created by lizard amoeba chimps on American soil. They came from Africa, migrated up into Egypt and the Nile Delta, into the Middle East, into Mesopotamia, into Europe, over into Persia, and then India and China. And whether or not they went through the Bering Strait or they had a knowledge of boats doesn't matter. They're in America. The DNA confirms this. They came from China, and China came from Egypt. And there are other patterns connecting them to Egypt. And the language, for example. To give you an example, the Egyptian sun symbol, a circle with a dot in the middle. The Egyptian symbol of the sun, a square with a little slash in the middle. It's the exact same sign for the sun. It's just China, we're squares. Rather than doing the curves. They have some curved strokes, but yeah, that's the origin of the Chinese. And I use that knowledge to confirm my Paleo-Hebrew theory. Again, patterns with the test confirmed from the anomalies. This is how you obtain knowledge. And so for me, yeah, it's a fact. Paleo-Hebrew comes from different Egyptian characters, and Chinese characters confirm it. And Greek confirms it. So yes, it's confirmed. So get out of the way, William Foxwell Albright and Sir Alan Gardner. Oh, acronym theory. We'll impose Semitic onto it and force it to work. Dear God. And so these native Indians in southern Illinois. And I can't remember the name, and again, I'd have to look it up and waste more time. Oh, I need to be doing this. Why wasn't it this fast yesterday? Their city was named the City of the Sun. You know, like Egypt's Heliopolis, City of the Sun. And they were therefore the Sun people. The Sun God was their God. You seeing a pattern? And they would perform human sacrifices on the altar at the temple in the City of the Sun to the Sun God. Human sacrifices. You know, like Abraham sacrificing Isaac, which I've gone over with you, is a star date for 8 April 4 CE. So whether that had already occurred and they wrote the Bible after, it doesn't matter. The fact remains that that is a star date there in the book of Genesis, referring to a total solar eclipse that occurred in that Netherland area into Russia, because they were not Russia and Netherlands back then. They had different names during different time periods, and you go back far enough, there were no names until civilization and authoritarian monarchs declare the land. And so why are they so obsessed with solar eclipses in southern Illinois? Very strange. And so these are the things that we need to... We're getting to it. Don't jump the gun. Just because we know about one that occurred, and a few of you may know about the second one that will cross in that location on a certain date in the future, coming up very soon. Don't jump the gun. Again, you have to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. Don't just draw your conclusions with a bit of evidence. You know, you see Jacob in the Bible, he concludes with brethren adieu. Oh, the Scottish Rites, there it is, 33-degree Masons, Lucifer. Because what else does the Bible or the Book of Mormon talk about? It quotes. But it's a translation, Travis. Are you sure it's a translation? Or are we going to call it revelation because he looked at a rock and a hat? Or was it a rock and a hat? Then why would he need the plates? The Egyptian gold plates. See, I'm already jumping the gun. Let's get to it. Well, wait. We got to talk about Jewish mysticism first. The religion. Oh, we also got to... I covered it. Their understanding of the Christ is that he is to be born mortal. Mortal parents, mortal man. And the Catholics, they're all about Jesus being immaculately conceived. Tomorrow is the Roman Catholic holiday of the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. Because Heavenly Father's Trinity, with Jesus and the Holy Ghost, And so there was no actual penetration and insemination. That's blasphemy. No, Mary's a virgin after having a baby. She's not a woman. Jesus didn't call her Mary. Well, he called his mother woman also. So yeah, that's what you do when a female has had children. You call her woman. That's the title. You know, in Japanese, for example, they have different languages depending on whether you're a commoner or whether you're of nobility. And when you're speaking to nobility, you use a different term versus when you're talking to a regular friend. Dad went to Japan on his mission. And so, yeah, you call girls who have not had babies virgins. You call females who have had babies woman. And I did the one about adultery and porn the other day. And it did fairly well. It gave out. More people are interested that the church has destroyed me. And so, yes, tomorrow is the anniversary of the Immaculate Conception of Mary. Because Jesus also calls his wife Mary woman at the tomb. Touch me not. No, 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 no sex. I have not ascended to the throne. You mean the Last Supper of the Lamb? That's coming up? That crosses over a certain location in the United States that has been purchased by the Knights Templar with Egyptian gold plates. There's a reason why you need to just trust me when I do these videos for you. And have we covered it? I get sidetracked. And so yes, the Knights Templar are about this man who will restore the kingdom of David. They selected America for that to take place, because America has a certain star date given to us, as even the Roman Catholic Church changed it. Because are you sure that Jesus was born on December 25th, 17th days later? Are you sure? That's quite a pregnancy. Well, no. They have their Feast of Nativity in September 8th. Wait a minute. Jesus was born in December 25th. That's when the sheep were lowing in, that's a different birth date altogether, too. Uh-oh. Something's weird. Why do we have all these different birth dates for the Christ? What's going on? Stay away from Matthew. He includes more. And so, yeah, the 2 fishes, that's Pisces. Well, that's a completely different birth date. And then you have the 5 loaves, which is the September one. For Bethlehem in Spica of Virgo. That's why it's immaculate. But the Roman Catholic Church need to have the church history literal. It can't be code. The church history must be literal. The church is dependent on its existence for being literal church history. We're getting there. We're getting closer. Hang on. I told you this was going to be long. I have to explain this, and so it's necessary to go over the history. as hopefully your eyes are being opened and you're going, holy crap, holy crap, but it's not a good thing. Like I said, there's some things that didn't happen. And I saved your life on one of them. And so, yes, where did they get this from? Why conception in December and birth in September? Revelation. John's revelation. And we chapter 12. This is where Francois or Francisco Rizzi, I believe is his name. He's the painter who did the painting of Mary with the 12 stars on her head and standing on the moon and having given birth to billions of little cherubim, little cupids. Why are angels babies? I don't understand. But nonetheless, yeah, that's where they get it from. That's a star date. Roman Catholics knew it. That's why they gave the dates as they did. Because they didn't want us to know the real date. And they still want to maintain Jesus as literal history, and thus confuse the actual dates that are being talked about in the books. See a pattern? Calling the books history so that they can misinform and distract from the real message of the books. It's a star date. And that first one, which Joseph Smith and Sidney Rigdon and Sr., because Sr. is all over that, as we get to the religion, moved verse 5 to verse 3. And lo and behold, there it is in the Book of Mormon. As the Book of Mormon also talks about, hey, there'll be this guy named John, an apostle of the Lamb, which I went over in that video, also be goat or ram. Abraham sacrificing Isaac, messenger appears, ram appears. Aries is a ram. Yep, that's where the solar eclipse occurred in 4 CE. And so, yes, the death of the Christ sign symbol on a certain date in the future that crosses in the United States a certain location where those native Indians were holding sacrifices to the sun god in the sun city, as they were the sun people. They knew. That's why they were there. That's Revelation 19, by the way. 8, 11, and 17. And look, there's, or is it 9? I put it in the video. It's correct in the video. And then Joseph Smith's Doctrine and Covenants 58. And so, you have, trying to get back on track. distracting from, so now you'll think about tomorrow with the Roman Catholic Church. Constantine, they changed it. Constantine was the December guy. He was the one who designated Christmas for the birthday, because that's another date. Interestingly, Joseph Smith is very close to that date. Isn't that interesting? Joseph, son of Joseph, prophesied by Joseph of Egypt. And so, let's get to the religion. The New Israelites. Again, we look for patterns, identify anomalies, do a theory test from a theory so that we can confirm or deny. And if we deny, we need to deny. We can't keep clinging on to it, William Foxwell Albright, after it's already been disproven. And others in other scientific fields. And so the tree of life comes after the New Israelites. Those dreams of seniors. As Sophronia. I have to look up Sophronia. She's confirmation. Joseph Smith Sr. I'm going to risk descendants. Alright. So Alvin, and they still spell Hyrum names wrong. Hyrum's name wrong. Let's see. That's Hyrum's children. Sophronia, 1803. So yeah, the incident, the wood scrape, was 1801. Uh-oh. Spring of early summer, the new, that's with Justice Winchell. 1802. 14 January 1802, the end of the world according to Nathaniel Wood of the New Israelites. And they have possible connection to Mormonism. And oh no, it has authors. Quinn, no, Quinn, you're wrong. It's not possible. Again, science is about looking for patterns and explaining anomalies with theory tests. So it's not possible, it is. There are too many patterns that tie in. Like a certain date that I can't reveal because there are so many fields that tie into it. It's driving me crazy. But I can't tell anybody. Except for one. And he knows who he is. If he's listening, and he will eventually listen to this. So, other connections. So Sophronia, his tree of life dream, his money digging, which actually is not the grave robbing money digging. That's a different thing. That has to do with Dartmouth, where Hyrum went to school there, and to pay for it, they helped dig up bodies to give to science for their research there at the school. And if you're like going, oh, that is horrible, that's awful, how dare we learn about our bodies? Well, Benjamin Franklin did it too. He had to have a room created. And I remember watching the video of having discovered the secret room in Benjamin's home and Franklin's home, and where he did his secret experimentations on the dead bodies to learn about the human body and anatomy. Why do you think we have anatomy books that are so graphically detailed, with the skeletal structure, the nerve system structure, the muscle structure, the organs, how everything works? Yeah, you sort of have to get bodies to check. And I know it's horrible and awful, but as long as they're dead and you don't cause them to die, you're donating your body to science. I don't want to. But yeah, there are lots of human atrocities that have been committed in the world's history. And they think they can justify it. But as long as the dead bodies are dead. But again, Christianity, the body is sacred, we need to keep it buried, we can't do research on the human body, we need to keep people in the dark about their sexuality and all sorts of other things, because heaven forbid we should bathe so that we don't get the plague. And we'll just call the Jews witches because they had their cleaning rituals. They're witches because they float like a duck. That would. It makes for great jokes. Is it too soon still? Apparently not for the Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And so, there's other stuff. The Book of Mormon, the 116 pages, has Jewish mysticism throughout it. I've gone over with you Joe Samson, a faithful, devout Mormon, thinks he helped confirm that the Book of Mormon is true, real history. And what he actually did was expose that, no, it comes from the New Israelites. Because Jewish mysticism, the first publication was the Alphabet Ben Sira in 600 CE. And in there, it talks about Lilith, the first wife of Adam, which shows he understood Egyptian. Because the Heliopolis creation glyph, Sun City the Sun City creation glyph is about Nut, who's the heavens, she's the female, over Geb, who's the male, and they're brother and sister, and Shu is the air, or firmament, or Rakia, or Rakiyang in Abraham, according to Rabbi Sykes, who taught Joseph Smith Hebrew in 1836. Is their father, keeping Nut from getting pregnant. But oops, too late. All it takes is just one time. And it's not an immaculate conception. Those Egyptians were heathens. Are you sure? Because she's heaven, he's earth. How are they? Well, there's different translations. It's also the Nile inundation, and childbirth, and lots of other things. The succession of authority on the throne of Egypt, and And so yes, you're going to need to know Egyptian too. You're going to need to know York rites. You're going to need to know Scottish rites. You're going to know the plan of the evil one. Because if you're just going to live your life in denial that they'll come after you, that you need to know their playbook, you're deceiving yourself and you're going to get hurt. Because they are evil. They purposely hurt people. So it's best that you know what they're up to best protect yourself. And you'll need to know Jewish mysticism. And so Jewish mysticism uses Hebrew, but it's not Semitic. There are different associations with the meaning of each letter, and there are various techniques, I guess we can say, to learning esoteric knowledge about Hebrew and vocabulary and written language, as the Bible is likewise one of those texts. And so you've probably heard of Gematria, where John in Revelation says the number of the beast is 666. And Iron Maiden, their classic song, the number of the beast. That's Gematria. It's where each Hebrew letter is assigned a number. And wouldn't you know it, I just did that video on the 2nd, which was Thursday, last week. Going over that with you. And we're doing fine. It's time for me to eat. And so there's also the Tree of Life. I did that video. It was too confusing for people, apparently. I did that in several different versions. Over these years, I've just repeated similar information, just put it in a different presentation. Did the 180 days, or 180 years. I remember that. But Senior knew about this, and so that's why I did the video about Thursday. And then over the weekend, after the 4th, when I was destroyed by the church, as now it's just a countdown to when it officially happens, I wander the earth like Moroni. And found out about what's coming, which, whether it saves me or not, I don't know yet. I don't know. But I'm giving too much to you. I do not want this ruined by the enemy. Scripture must be fulfilled, and I've already cost several of it to not be fulfilled. But it's a good thing. I'm saving your lives. And then there's tomorrow, and I always mispronounce this. I have to actually read it because it's complicated. Nokeraton or Notikeraton, something like that. These helped me figure out how to decipher Paleo-Hebrew. Again, I look for patterns and any anomalies I develop a theory and test the theory for confirmation or to dismiss it. And so I've dismissed witchcraft's language, for example. That's a completely separate language. And they may use Hebrew, but they're using it in a completely different language. And so Jewish mysticism is what Madonna joined. She wanted to learn the esoteric secrets of the universe. But your wisdom, your righteousness, the crown, all have to do with this esoteric knowledge of the Jewish concept of their Christ. So there's Moses, he's the Father Christ, and he, in Deuteronomy, as I've gone over with you numerous times in various presentations, he says there's going to be a future prophet, like me, Moses, the Christ of the Jews. This prophet is the Christ in the future, and people all make the mistake, and I even had a person put it in a comment, Jesus is the Christ Moses is speaking of. No! You got deceived. You fell for it. Because you took small pieces by lying, deceiving people, and you made your conclusions without getting all the information to develop a proper theory to be tested. Because Constantine, as we'll get into, goes over that. And so, there's that for you. Jewish mysticism. Yeah, that King David, child, David Moses is Egyptian, all that. And so the Smiths get kicked out of Vermont, like I told you. They eventually all get into Palmyra. In 1818, a major event happens in their lives. Sr. becomes the Master Mason of Canandaigua, New York. And he's now given a farm to run to try to support his family. Isn't that interesting timing? Well, there's a reason for that. It has to do with William Morgan. The book that the Batavian Press published in his name to try to recoup the money they lost investing in him for the books that he was going to publish. And he was arrested in Canandaigua on 9/11, the second time around. 9/11. 9. Stay away from it. I cannot disclose it. I've already said too much already, and other videos already help lead you to that if you just knew how to do the search. And I should tell you, because Joseph Smith told us in a parable. But then Nelson's going to find out. Do I save your lives? I will definitely lose my life, as things will get postponed again. But once I'm gone, guys, I can't protect you anymore. I can't postpone things for you anymore. We'll see. So, yeah, the book talks about the duties and responsibilities of a Master Mason. And that's Joseph Smith Sr. That's how we know what he did during what's called the anti-Mason movement that came from September 11th, 1826. He was released. David Miller of the Batavian Press, again, paid to have him released, paid the fine, again. And this time, there were Freemasons of the York Rites Lodge, because that's York Rites territory. Again, everything patterns. And they helped him escape the country, to flee the country, because they aren't going to let him publish the book. Not the Freemasons who've helped him free him. The enemy who falsely had him arrested in Canandaigua, where Smith is the Master Mason. Where Freemasons help him escape. They go to Niagara, and then Thomas Monroe is found with Morgan's clothes. And the wife came to identify the body, and that caused confusion. We don't know what happened to Thomas Monroe. He was dead. We don't know if he sacrificed his life so that William Morgan can go free, or if he was going to expose that William Morgan was fleeing the country and he needed to be silenced. We don't know. Because the sheriff, who was in charge of investigating the case, hired a tracker, and the tracker traced William Morgan into Canada. There were some bones found. People thought maybe it's his. But the tracker said he tracked him into Canada and found that he had been given an ultimatum. Do you want to live here, or do you want a horse to get out of the United States altogether, out of America altogether? Because Canada is part of America, North America. And he chose the horse. And he rode the horse to the East Coast, where he boarded a ship, and the records show that the ship sank. And that's where I found, back in 2017, and so I hope I still have the document. I need somebody with technical expertise and tools, just in case it didn't survive and it's stuck on the device. But a descendant tells the story of how he survived, was picked up by fishing vessels and taken to the Caribbean, and then eventually ended up in Honduras, where apparently the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints knows. Uh-oh. But at least he survived and had a family of his own, and had a banana plantation and sold the bananas to the States. But now the church knows, as they, right there, apparently across the street, or in that township, the church has stuff there. Like I said, it's on the documentation. But the guy thought that the church was true. He didn't realize that. So, what was William Morgan's books? They were a threat that he had exposed from the Scottish Rites meetings. He had been to the meetings and learned of their plot to overthrow America. They had been infiltrated in the War of 1812 by the Illuminati. The Illuminati already had sleeper cells from 1800 when they tried to overthrow America that year. And their plan was to infiltrate the Scottish Rites, rise up into popularity and in numbers, take over positions of local governments, and work their way up to the presidency. That's why you see the Scottish Rites. They're in D.C. between the horns of the inverted pentagram that points directly at the White House. It's not that the White House is controlled by Satan. That's the misinformation part. They plan to overthrow America in the future. Are we sure it's the future now? January 6th? Are we sure? Because that Mormon War was very similar to what happened on January 6th for the 2020 election. Patterns. And so, having been foiled in their plans by 1926, because they found out that William Morgan found out, and he was in Canandaigua at the taverns. His home is in Batavia. What's he doing in Canandaigua? He's got a book to write, doesn't he? Isn't he writing it in Batavia? They searched his home in Batavia after he disappeared, trying to find clues as to where he was and where these books were that he had claimed to have been working on, having been paid by the Batavian press, David Miller, to write these books. Where did they go? Where are the manuscripts? How many pages were there? Who took them? Where are they? Yeah, Canandaigua is where Joseph Smith Sr. is. That's why he was there in Canandaigua. And we know this because a certain Heber C. Kimball knew this, because he outright lies in the section in Wikipedia under Masonry for him. Heber C. Kimball was a part of the Illuminati Scottish Rites who planned to overthrow America. And I did the video yesterday again for you in a different presentation, as he got Brigham Young to join them. They joined the church after Brigham Young's wife was failed to be healed by priesthood authority. Yeah, it makes total sense, right? Oh, church is so true, you failed to heal my wife. I'm now immediately joining. I have no alternate, ulterior, malicious motives in joining. No, not at all. Heber? Oh, we're just bringing what will be called the Danites, the judges, into the church. Yeah, that's what they plan to do. Exactly what they plan to do for the United States, they're still doing. It's the same pattern. They haven't changed. They infiltrated Joseph Smith's church. That was their first missions. The church had a whole article on it. You can still see it on their website. Joseph Smith's mission, or Brigham Young's mission, sorry. He went to his hometown and converted everybody. What a surprise. They were Scottish Rites. They were pissed with the anti-Mason movement because a journalist reported on this, saying that Freemasonry, generalized, had murdered William Morgan. His body is missing. We don't know what's going on. Thomas Monroe was identified by his wife and wearing William Morgan's clothes. What do we do? And so, yeah, the people rose up and burned everything down. there were only a handful of Masonic temples surviving. There were hundreds of Masonic temples and burned to just a handful. So do you think that the ones who were responsible for overthrowing the government were happy? Or did they want revenge? And so they were going to do it again. They found out who it was, who was responsible, who saved America single-handedly. And they were going to do it again. Their plan was to infiltrate the church, rise up in numbers, rise up in rank and popularity in the various priesthood quorums, which they did in 1838. That was the leadership crisis that I referred to. And they still couldn't keep Joseph locked up. He kept getting out because Brigham Young was taking over in the absence of Joseph. He was exalting himself when he shouldn't be. There were structures in place to run the church in Joseph's absence, and nothing was getting done properly because Joseph was so abusive, authoritarian, or Brigham, sorry. I keep mixing the names. And so there's documents that I've gone over with you that confirm this. And a key one is 19 July 1840, where Joseph Smith says, many of you incorrectly think that Missouri is going to be where Zion will be, at New Jerusalem. He says they're in southern Illinois, the mountain cities of the Lord. It was Joseph Smith's intention to build up an army to defend America against the infiltration plot to destroy it at a future time. Instead, Joseph Smith was murdered. Brigham and Heber paid for with 30 or 20 pieces of silver, it doesn't matter which. The symbolism is the same, as they now are residing, we're now residing in Judah, phonetically the same as Utah. The betrayers. To the Warsaw Lodge members who disregarded the governor's orders to stand down and came and went up to get Joseph and Hyrum and bring them out. Notice Joseph and Hyrum. Why not Willard Richards and John Taylor? There would be casualties just by being there, right? Because they're all involved, right? They're all the enemy. So, what happened? What's going on? Yes, confusing testimonies, whereas the evidence I've already gone over with you. Joseph shot John Taylor after John Taylor got the pistol, my third great grandfather's, John Solomon Fulmer's single shot that he gave to Joseph as he went to go get the Nauvoo Lodge to make sure that he would get to court safely. But John's watch shows the time when the incident happened, as the church is now taken off the hands. But it was in the old manual, and because they don't want to see the time when Joseph Smith shot John Taylor. Kimball had, Spencer W. Kimball had tried to clean up and remove the little plaque on the floor. This is where Joseph was shot. No, that was where Hyrum was shot. That's Hyrum's blood. And yeah, Willard Richards came from behind and shot Joseph in the back with the 6-shooter he got when he was getting the wine for the sacrament, and then dumped his body out the window so that then the mob can then keep shooting at him. And yes, he has the Jupiter stone, which that's the Christ, born of the Virgin for the Immaculate Conception, celebrated tomorrow by the Roman Catholic Church, not the 23rd of September 2017, which is the date that John gives. And so then, yes, Brigham Young, sex trafficking, out of the country, takes hostages, extorts John Solomon Fulmer, because Desdemona Fulmer, my third great aunt, she's property, she doesn't have rights, she needs to be taken care of. And so Brigham Young lies to her, says, Joseph Smith was practicing polygamy in secret, you'll be married to him. She has no other options in life. And so because he was able to get Desdemona Fulmer, he was then able to bribe John Solomon Fulmer, putting him in charge of, was it the Treasury? Something like that. And he took token polygamous wife, and then took a third one after Brigham Young made it a public declaration in what was now Utah territory, as he was still defying the United States. It's a crime to commit polygamy. And here Brigham Young was still committing it, and started up the tithing fraud. You can't go to the Nauvoo temple with the Illuminati sign in defiance of Isaiah, in the middle position between the two other sons, which the Nauvoo temple is dedicated on the anniversary of the Illuminati. Again, patterns to confirm. There are just too many patterns to deny and call it a possibility. Dear God. You have John C. Bennett forms his own Illuminati. How many more detailed can you get of the Danites and what they were? And so yes, the Illuminati lives on with the current Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so, yeah, that's their plot. That's why the church is buying up land now, because we're nearing that time when their plan will be implemented, which I caused to be delayed. The abomination of desolation, which Joseph Smith talks about in section 101. I guess I have to warn you. Things are happening. We already know this is it. I know anyway. Whether you believe or not, that's your problem. No, we need to cover Joseph Smith history first. So here, Joseph Smith in 1838. His history. And I should check. I think he still spells Hyrum as Hyrum. I don't think he spells Hyrum Hiram. That is crucial, because the change was made after the anti-Mason movement, because people wanted death to anybody involved with the Freemasons. Generalization, fallacy thinking. And so there's a reason why. You're done? This is long. Oh my goodness. Okay, so yeah, let's stop here. Let me load this. Let me deal with that. And then we'll get to the church history. Alright. Had a little something to eat. Took a bathroom break during this, what could end up being a 3-hour tour again. And then, alright, let's get going here. One other thing I should bring out is that by learning the code, how to decode, you can see how the current Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the prophets, are still using the encoded speech to deceive Mormons. As I've gone over with you, this book by the son of Hyrum, who was kidnapped as part of that extortion threat, as women are property, and her husband has been murdered by the guy who paid for the assassination and raised by him. So that's sad to see how they've been morphed into evil. But I've gone over with you this information. I hope you can see or read it. It's page 290 by the voice of the priesthood at the bottom is where it starts. He's talking about Adam-on-Diamond. He's the creator of this council, or at least the one who exposes it that I can find. Maybe there's something in the Journal of Discourses that I have yet to find. I'm still struggling to find an index in a PDF format. What good is having all the journals in PDF without the index? Dear God. So, anyway, until I find it, he's the one that's the source so far. As I used to think, it was that one member of the 70 who was creating doctrinal myth for Mormons about Adam-on-Diamond and the sacred, secret, appointed priesthood meeting in the latter days. Well, we're in the latter days. I've done the videos. I did the whole series when I got this book. And I will again read from it for you. So this council in the valley is of greatest importance at that time. So in this council at Adam-on-Diamond, which is Spring Hill, Missouri, where Joseph Smith, as I told you, in 19 July 1840 said that's not the place. As many of you incorrectly think, is going to be where all priesthood authorities who are living are given a secret, sacred appointment or a mission call, and those who are dead will arrive, and somebody else will be in attendance at that meeting to give his authority to Jesus, created by Constantine, the Council of Nicaea. We're going to get to it with the history here in a minute. At that time, there will be a transfer of authority from the usurper, Jacob. Jacobite, mythological founder of the Scottish Rites, infiltrated by the Illuminati, by the usurper and impostor Lucifer, the Illuminati. You're seeing the decoding from the encoded message that he is giving Mormons. And as a Mormon, if you do not see how usurper is Scottish Rites and Lucifer, who took over the Scottish Rites as the Illuminati, if you're not seeing that, it's because the church has deceived you. I'm decoding this book now. And it's sad to see how he had been morphed into a monster from Hyrum. And so to the rightful king, Jesus Christ. Lucifer will be in attendance in Adam-on-Diamond. What the hell? And he gives authority to Jesus, who doesn't exist because he was created by Constantine. Again, Jesus is code. So what is happening? What happened? as I suspect it already has happened. I did the video. Is it just the government that Jesus is going to be in charge of? Oh wait, the prophets say that Jesus is the head of this church. But this church is Lucifer's church of the Illuminati through the Scottish Riots, of whom Brigham and Heber were, with their Danites. So what the hell's going to happen? Well, again, I've gone over with you Albert Pike in his letter to Giuseppe Mazzini. And he goes over exactly what is going to happen. Oops. Oopsies. And we'll just do the third one. The Third World War. La, 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 la. So, Albert Pike, Scottish Rites Mason, infamous, wrote Morals and Dogma. It was his version of William Morgan's book that the Batavian Press published in his name. And wrote a letter to Giuseppe Mazzini outlining the general plans for the future. And some people are like, Nazi? What's Nazi doing in there? Nazi wasn't formed until Hitler formed it. German word for the common cheap herd people. And so, yeah, he was part of the Socialist Party to deceive in order to become and transform Germany into authoritarian fascism, called Nazis. But he says the Third World War must be fomented by taking advantages of the differences caused by the agenter of the Illuminati. So again, further confirmation. See, the world only has this, and they may know about the Scott guy. I can't remember his full name. He wrote volumes of books, and in one of the volumes he talked about the Illuminati that attacked the United States. Escapes my mind. But for the world, they think the Illuminati is no longer in existence. It's gone. It's not an issue anymore. Until you get Bush Sr. coming out and saying, New World Order, 1,000 points of light, and causing people to go, oh, Illuminati! An awesome song. Illuminati, you've come to take control. You can take our heartbeat, but you won't. Something like that. But yeah, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints confirms this is legitimate. This is a legitimate threat because of the church, as I've gone over with you, and again summarized for you. And so he then talks about how he will divide and conquer. That's the plan. But in the end, Christianity will be destroyed. Why? Because there's no Jesus. Not coming from outer space, not going to save people so that people can do nothing. Jesus will just kill off all the wicked and then everybody will be happy. No, none of that. That's all wrong. It's not going to happen. They know this. The Roman Catholic Church knows this. Because they know the date for the birth. Which is not the birth. But they're causing confusion with tomorrow and then the nativity one, which will be next year. perpetual pregnancy. And so Christians will be left not knowing what to do. Who do we worship now? What do we do? And so then, ta-da, we'll receive the true light bearers of the Illuminati, the universal manifestation. Oh, that's in the Book of Mormon. Mormons call it a spiritual witness. No, it's physical. Manifestation means physical evidence. Something that can be seen, heard, felt, tasted, smelled, whatever the five senses are, of the pure doctrine. Oh, Nelson used pure multiple times in a conference talk. God. When you know the truth, evil disgusts you. Doctrine of Lucifer, finally brought out in the public view. Christianity conquered. And why Christianity? Well, yeah, they sent the world into the Dark Ages. But, so, yeah, George Albert Smith. Isn't that interesting? Sure it has nothing to do with Albert Pike. Some other Albert somewhere. Because his grandfather was George Albert Pike, or George Albert Smith. Pike. Anyway. I see it, guys. That's why it's so frustrating that I'm under attack and nobody can see that I'm under attack who are able to watch my videos. So frustrating. So frustrating. I can't get this thing to focus right. Minutes. Alright. I'm going to have to stop at 7, regardless of whether I'm finished or not before then. So, we'll see what I can do. I'll have to, well, if I have to keep going, I gotta shower and shave, and then I've got laundry to do today. I'm not dead yet. Alright, so Joseph Smith history. Now there's some more history I need to bring out in order for you to decode what Joseph has encoded in his own history. Because he talks about, in verse 5, sometime in the second year after our removal to Manchester. Removal? See, he doesn't talk about father becoming a master mason, and because he's a master mason was given the farm in Manchester. 2 years later, he's now talking about 1820, which is interesting why he's talking about 1820, because none of this happened in 1820. There was in the place where we lived an unusual excitement on the subject of religion. It commenced with the Methodists, and he's not talking about being Congregationalists or that little short stint of his father being involved with the New Israelites, is he? He is purposely leaving out certain key features that would help us understand the coming forth of the Book of Mormon. Isn't that interesting? There was in that place, it commenced with the Methodists. Emma Smith and her family were Methodists in Harmony. Now there's some interesting facts. As a Mormon viewer, antagonistic towards me, thought he was going to confound me by pointing me to the Joseph Smith papers of where Father Hale, Emma Hale, it's further down. It's in the next scene of the story. She, or Hia, sells Joseph a house. He's working on the Book of Mormon, just lost 116 pages, just got kicked out of the Methodists because of the death of their firstborn, for which they were seeking solace with the Methodists, because that's her family, or that's her church. And he loses the 116 pages, and now he's buying a home because his ability to translate is taken from him for a season. What's going on? Don't you need money to publish? You just lost Martin Harris. He's the wicked man referred to in section 3 and 10. And yes, they do eventually get him after they finish the book, because they still need money to publish. And he's the only one that has enough money for them to publish. And they go back to him. But he's out of the picture for the rest of the book. He blew it. And yes, Oakes is a descendant, sort of, from Martin Harris. And so does Oakes know about what's going on? Hell yes, he does. He knows the truth, despite the lies that he keeps perpetuating, even about his own ancestor. And so that's where the Methodists fit in. And so then we get to, let's see. But the thing is that we're led to believe that he purchased the home in Harmony, Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania. Which again, you're looking at your maps, right? You're confirming the locations and where all these different places are taking place in connection with other places, right? Because they don't have cars, they don't have tennis shoes, they have horses and carriages and wagons or whatever. And so understand that. And they're poor. They got kicked out of Vermont for being poor. How many horses do they have? Where was Hyrum Smith, a member of the York Rights Lodge in Palmyra? Why not with Dad in Canandaigua? Why isn't Joseph Smith with Dad in Canandaigua? Again, don't assume that the current practice is what was done back then. And so then he, that's the final sentence. Some were contending for the Methodist faith, some for the Presbyterian. That's where Lucy comes in. Alvin dies in 1823. And then gives the date. November 19th, 1823. That's when Alvin died. And Joseph Smith is aware of county changes. It was Palmyra, Ontario, now Wayne County. It's in parentheses. I'd have to check the Joseph Smith papers to make sure that Joseph Smith put that in, or if it's the current church that put that in. But that would go to show that he was aware that Harmony, Susquehanna River, Pennsylvania, was not Harmony when he purchased the land from his father-in-law. Why did they get land there, and why is Joseph now purchasing land there after losing 116 pages? What's going on? Doesn't he need to buy a book or pay for a book to publish it? It's a lot of money to publish a book. You don't make much money publishing books, as people today seem to think. Being a publisher is a pretty desperate business. You still have to find other jobs. It does not, make you set for life unless you become a bestseller. And even then, if you don't become a certain level of bestseller with a certain income that comes in regularly, you're still going to have to budget your finances. But I digress. So again, people thinking that Joseph Smith was in this to make money, dear God, what are you thinking? And so Alvin dies. It's a Presbyterian who officiates at his funeral. And he says Alvin's going to die in hell because he wasn't baptized. They were Congregationalists, but they never became members because of the process of becoming a member in Congregationalism. And the same with New Israelites. And that's how we can confirm he was not a member of the New Israelites, Sr. And thus we can also know he was not in polygamous marriages of the New Israelites, because only members could get the plural wives. I don't know where they were getting the extra wives from, but you had to be a member. And it's clear Sr. was never a member. He just participated. He apparently mastered the art of divining with a rod, as William Cowdery also, who taught it to his son Oliver. That's why it's in the Doctrine and Covenants. It's now been decoded as the gift of God, which is actually the encoding of it. The encoding of the encoding, that it was just the divining rod of Justice Winchell, who joined the organization. He wanted to be a member. So yeah, the whole wood scrape in January 14th. And so you can see, even though the organization was over with, Sr. still called Sophronia with the Jewish mysticism. That was still an impression in his mind, as he had Tree of Life vision, dreams, etc. And so when we're going to get to it, he goes to his mom and says, "I have learned for myself that Presbyterianism is not true." She never joined the Presbyterians. I looked in her journal. I have the book, the unedited version. She gets to that point where she has an excellent opportunity to put to rest the question of the church history being real or not. And she says, "I refer you to my son's account," and quotes this. Oh my God! Oh, she's in on it. She's keeping secrets. So yeah, good for Smith Sr. entrusting his wife with the sacred secrets about the end of the world. And then we get to Baptist. Well, that's curious. What do the Baptists have to do with anything? Sidney Rigdon, Sidney Rigdon, Sidney Rigdon, Sidney Rigdon, major author of the Book of Mormon. Yep. That's where he comes in. He was a Baptist preacher. Got kicked out of the Baptists. Had been with Alexander Campbell, with his Campbellites. But Alexander Campbell only wanted to revise the New Testament. Sidney Rigdon said, no, we need to revise the whole Bible so that we harmonize the two books for the prophecies and the fulfillments. Alexander said, this is my church, it's my way or the highway. So Sidney Rigdon went to the highway, to Ohio, and Pittsburgh, and a town north of Pittsburgh, right next to Harmony, Pennsylvania, north of Pittsburgh. Not Harmony, Susquehanna, which was no longer called Harmony. Because of the two Harmonies, the post office said, no, ain't gonna happen. One of you are changing your names, and it was Susquehanna that changed their name. So isn't that interesting? Two Harmonies in Pennsylvania, and are we sure that it's Susquehanna and not where Sidney Rigdon is? Why would Joseph divert history away from Sidney Rigdon, who's the major author of the Book of Mormon, whose place in Ohio is on the path between Harmony and the farm? Again, look for patterns. And so, yes, the Smiths knew. And you can read it in Doctrine and Covenants, chapter 3, or section 3 and section 10. In section 3, it's where Joseph Smith blew it, gave up the 116 pages. And the Lord, is it the Lord of the Manor? Yes, it is. I just decoded it for you. Is pissed. So why didn't you come to me? I mean, yeah, you lost your son. I did too. There was another one before Alvin. And Lucy miscarried. Or not miscarried. They lost the son, the child. And so it was in the family, I guess. But lots of families suffered. The mortality rate is much greater now, as we have a much better healthcare system with doctors that are able to help. But they charge for babies, dear God. The one thing that is natural and free, and they charge people for it, to put them out of their homes because it's too expensive. But anyway, I digress again. And so, minute and 25 seconds. Should be easier. They changed the labeling. So as long as it stays the same for the next disc, it'll be fine. Am I able to stop then and take care of this? Let's see here. So yeah, he's a Baptist Campbellite at Sidney Rigdon, so yeah, I think we can then go over the first vision when I take care of this. All right, sounds good. Agreed. But should I shower and shave and then come back? We'll see. Okay, we'll just continue on, and I'll give myself a time limit of 30 minutes max. So Joseph Smith refers to James. And in James, it starts out with James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ. So we can assume he knows about Jesus. He's got a Bible, the 1769 King James Version of the Bible. And so he knows, as there are plagiarisms from that version of the Bible into the Book of Mormon, as Nephi. I That was the other question that I didn't get answered. Somebody had asked me a question about Nephi, and I was going to put in Maccabees from the Apocrypha, and I forgot to do it. So if you're listening, we'll find out. But that's the answer. Nephi's in Maccabees. It's a demon spirit, but it's there. Kimball took it out. Joseph Smith had the section in the Doctrine and Covenants that says, hey, the Apocrypha is perfect, as is, good to go, it's in our Bible. Spencer W. Kimball, nope, get rid of it. Heber J. Grant took out the lectures on faith for the doctrine of the Doctrine and Covenants, and then Kimball took out the Apocrypha. Isn't that great? Taking away plain and precious parts of the Bible. And so here he goes. He only says God. He never says Jesus. But he says he read it, and it says Jesus. He knows about Jesus, but he never says the name. He will not say the name here in the first vision. And so there's this evil force that tries to destroy him. But then it no sooner appeared than I found myself delivered from the enemy which held me bound. When the light rested upon me, which light was a pillar of light exactly over my head above the brightness of the sun at noonday, which descended gradually until it fell upon me. I saw two personages. He will not say the name, whose brightness and glory defy all description, standing above me in the air, defying the laws of physics. They've got blood, they've got bone, they've got flesh. That's blasphemy to Christians. Because Constantine said clearly, they're supernatural. We cannot even comprehend that we cannot comprehend. That's what it means. If we can't comprehend, then we're not supposed to be able to comprehend that we can't comprehend. Because we can't comprehend. And so we're not even supposed to refer to Trinity as Trinity. Jesus can't be referred to because we can't comprehend him. That's how dumb Constantine was. And people fell for it. It's the biggest con that has been perpetuated upon mankind. And Joseph knows this. And one of them spake unto me, saying to the other, oh, this comes from John the Baptist, where Jesus is getting baptized. He knows Jesus, and he won't say the name. This is my beloved son. Hear him. I've gone over with you in Egyptian, that would be, this is my son of Mary. Mary is beloved in Egyptian, just as Peter is seer in Egyptian. And they would not put it in the footnote when I told them, hey, it's Egyptian. This shows that Joseph is right in the Joseph Smith translation. We need to have this footnoted. Mormons need to know. Nope. We have BYU scholars who are in charge of the foreign languages, ancient languages. And they made errors. Oh, Israel, let God prevail. I talked to some buddies at BYU, Hebrew scholars, and they told me you can create another meaning than is already given in the text, which is the white supremacist version, over the pulpit of conference. He humiliated himself and exposed him. Studying the gathering all your life. Lie. Well, I know what you're doing. And so, yeah. He's talking about which church is he supposed to join. He was answered in verse 19, none of them. Stay away from Christianity. So Mormons, Pop quiz. Are we Christian? You go on missions. You tell Christians this. And you call us Christian. Dear God. Heber C. Kimball, Heber J. Grant. Really pulled a fast one on all of us. Christianity is wrong. And not only that, he keeps on going. He said the personage, who is the beloved Son, not Jesus, he won't say the name, who addressed me, said that all their creeds were an abomination in his sight. So what are these creeds? Oh, we have one for Christmas as the birthday, but the original one is the Nicene Creed, the very first creed of creeds that spawned all the other creeds. So if you're going to go back in time and make changes to fix things, that's where you go. I saw a game, Red Alert, CNC, whatever that is. They had a little clip on YouTube about how the Russians lose World War III, but have to go back in time to kill Albert Einstein to win. Hilarious. They got some actual Hollywood actors to play the roles. So that's hilarious. But anyway, let's see. And so an abomination, wow, that's quite harsh. What was in that Nicene Creed of Constantine that I've already been giving you clues, I've already been doing the videos. Yeah, it's where Jesus now becomes literal history in the Gospels. They were apocalyptic literature until Constantine, with the Nicene Creed, said, hey, he's real now. And so he later would go take a tour of the Israel and say, oh, this is Bethlehem. This is where he was born. It wasn't the Immaculate Conception of the Star Date at Spica, the House of Bread Star, where Jupiter would pass that after finishing his 10-month retrograde, because the firstborn is always longer, right, women? Not always. Some women are able to have it within exactly 9 months, but I was almost 10 months. Was I? Let's see, it was in June when my conception was. So July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. No, it was 9. My mom was a tall woman, so her frame was bigger. So, yeah, she was able to handle it. But, nonetheless, there are those who are 10. There are those who are 6. Oh, born premature. Yeah, that's it. Prematurely born. Yes, they look fully grown, but premature. There was no shotgun wedding at all. No rush to get married before she started the show. None of that involved. So cute. Alright, so, yeah, and then Trinity. He doesn't exist, and we can't comprehend him as not existing. That was that first creed, which is an abomination, and has been the biggest deception on mankind. Now, do you understand why they think that they can commit crimes and murder people just so that they can get revenge on the Roman Catholic Church? With their Spanish Inquisition and all sorts of other atrocities over the decades and centuries and millennia. I mean, yeah, it's one thing for them to murder scientists. It's another thing to seek revenge through murdering innocent people. And that's where the Illuminati went wrong. That's not the way you should have done it. But they want to destroy Christianity for revenge. Just as Brigham and Heber joined for revenge on the Smiths. So that they can go back to preparing for the destruction of the United States as well as the rest of the world. As I just read to you out of Joseph Fielding Smith, that's what he means. He's saying that the governments are run by Lucifer, and they're going to give it to the church. The church will be the leaders of the world through the priesthood. But he leaves out, well, isn't the president of the church supposed to give his authority to Jesus too? If you're calling the world's leaders of Lucifer's authority, and it's only priesthood there, what else is going on? Yeah, and that's what it is. The church is going to overthrow America and the rest of the world. And they're in league with our enemies. When Nelson got up at a solemn assembly for the temple announcements and said, a major city yet to be determined in Russia, the audience went, yay, we're converting the heathen Russians, because we'd rather be Russian than vote Democrat. They're our enemy. They're attacking us. They've been attacking us. And so, yeah, there's the first vision for you. It's not Jesus. Even though there is the name in the Book of Mormon, it's not Jesus. And so, let's go to the Book of Mormon, because I delayed the abomination of desolation that Joseph Smith with Nephi, not Moroni, and the Egyptian gold plates of the Knights Templar. And so taking that into effect, that it's not Jesus, we're talking about the Christ who is to be a mortal, born of mortal parents, descended from King David of the David-Moses dynasty of Egypt. Let's go to where we also take people in the Book of Mormon after talking about the first vision. 3rd Nephi, chapter 11. This is decoding it for you. We've gone over the real church history for you. I had to summarize it in 3 hours, 2.5 hours. And so, yes, there are some minor details, but I got the major stuff. And now it came to pass, as they put 34 AD. No. And now it came to pass that there were a great multitude gathered together. I sure hope so, because we got an event coming that I've been hesitating to reveal because I don't want it ruined. But like I said, multiple different fields all converging on this date, and it's not April 2024. It's this month, and I don't know if I'll be saved from it, but I'm sacrificing my life just to give you this information. Whether I live or die, it mattereth not, as Moroni says, as I'm now tearing up. But there's also God is pissed. Let me just put it to you that way. There is a higher power, and he is pissed. Because of all these connections for this one day. I don't know what will happen. I don't know if this video will get into somebody who will become popular spreading my information, which will then cause it. I don't know. All I know is everything points to it. But there cannot be a gathering. And who is the gatherer? Moses. Moses says, the last days there will be a man like Moses, like me, who will gather. Where are they gathering? To Zion and New Jerusalem, that Joseph Smith says was supposed to be in southern Illinois, not Missouri. The most popular video I did on Travis Wayne Goodsell, which is around 39,000 now. Yeah, I hadn't found 19 July 1840 from the Joseph Smith papers yet. So yes, I've been carrying that incorrect belief because the church has kept it hidden from us. I'm sure it has nothing to do with Joseph again calling Brigham and his apostles Judas, referring to the Last Supper. They will murder him. And so yes, this is the gathering. There has to be an exodus. Joseph Smith goes over, he does decode. Section 103:16, a Mormon will be that Moses. And he will gather and exodus the Mormons from Utah. Because that's what we now know it is. And it's Judah in phonetics, the betrayer, who sold out his brother Joseph, who sold out Jesus. There's a reason why they were written that way. Because the Mormons will betray their Christ, that Mormon who is to be born mortal. And I've gone over with you all the prophecies of the people of Nephi. That's his new name from the temple of angels. And it would have been 50 years ago from 2020, because that's the Jubilee year. We were supposed to have the Exodus this year, and that was postponed because of the hard-heartedness of the Mormons. Notice I didn't say stiff-neckedness this time. There are too many naughty people making comments. And so the Mormons have now been gathered by this Moses. Will he survive? Will he be the last surviving member to record the entire destruction of the Mormons? I don't know. But section 101, verse 43, the manual said we're the servants. Took the prophets out of the picture. Well, who, teacher? Who are the olive trees? Next question. Oh, dear God. And so, yes, Nephites, Mormons, and their brothers are the Lamanites. Those are the Illuminati. Round about the temple. And see, notice how, because people think that this is racist literature, because the Lamanites turn black because of their wickedness. And so people assume, well, it's racist. They don't understand that white supremacist Christians believe that the mark of Cain in their Bible means the mark of blackness. And so when Sidney Rigdon and and Sr. most likely were doing with Jr. the retranslation of the whole Bible, like Sidney Rigdon wanted, almost like he was getting paid for doing something for them. Because they didn't have the money to pay him, they only had the money to pay for the print press after Martin Harris sold his farm in the end. They put in, lost my train of thought by going that way. Oh, right, the racist thing, and the mark of blackness on their skin. It's in the Joseph Smith selections section in the Program Press. But if you do not understand the warning message about the Book of Mormon, that the Lamanites are not the historical native Indians. Yes, Joseph Smith did refer to them, to the Mormons. We need to go and give the Book of Mormon to the native indigenous people. We need to have the single elders marry the native Indians. Why? Well, obviously the Danites interpreted that as polygamy, but they're wrong. Joseph never said that in that talk. I read it. I went over it. I looked. It's not. He says the elders. They were meeting with the elders. We need to marry. Joseph never married, so what is he talking about? He's talking about getting them brought into the church and then marrying, intermingling. Why? So that they can be denied their cultural heritage? No. What was happening ever since settlers came to the Americas? You know, the whole blanket thing for Thanksgiving. Here's some blankets. Bye. Yeah, we were slaughtering them. They were being pushed westward. Joseph Smith was trying to save them. And that's the only way you could do it with white supremacists. Is if you marry them, then they're safe. And their generations will be safe. Because now they're American. Even though they're pre-American. But that's what the Lamanites represent, are the Illuminati white supremacists who want to destroy. Who want to ruin, destroy history, so that nobody will know the truth. That they will be the ones to determine what history is. And you see that all throughout the Book of Mormon, as they seek to destroy the Nephites. And so where are they? Oh, the temple. Which temple? Not Jerusalem. Or not Jerusalem. We're not talking about destruction there. It's America. That's where the two solar eclipses that the native Indians in southern Illinois knew about. Just as the Knights Templar knew. That's why they bought the land. Because that's where the kingdom of restoring David's kingdom is supposed to be, with the descendant of King David, of the 18th Egyptian dynasty, where he was supposed to have the kingdom while the rest of the world is destroyed. That will be the one place of safety, refuge, and peace. Section 45. Joseph Smith tells us this is a parable, just as the Bible is parable about the latter days. And I'm going to refer to the Bible parable of the latter days from Matthew 24 as my template to talk to Mormons. And so it's not Jews, it's Mormons. It's not the Jerusalem temple, it's the Mormon temple with the inverted pentagram of Lucifer of the Illuminati on it. And so it's not Jerusalem or Judah. That's amazing how they named it just right. And it wasn't the church. The church didn't want it that. They wanted Deseret. So isn't that interesting? that one other man who beat them to Congress got to name it just right. And that's why, again, there does seem to be a higher power over all this. And he literally is pissed. And I did the video. I'm holding off. But it has all the ties. And dear God, should I give you a sample since tomorrow is the conception? For 9 months. Okay, we'll take a break before we go back to the land bountiful, where they are gathered at the temple when Jesus comes from outer space, descending out of heaven, calling him saw a man, a deity, not an angel, a man. That's a sign in the heavens from John's 19, April 2024. That's this right here. And so yes, the enemy has this as their deadline date. And I'm out of time. Okay, so now's not a good time to lose my train of thought by getting distracted. Hunter, 9 months for his presidency. I thought that was strange. Until Hinckley, 9 months, or 9 years, sorry. 9 years for his presidency. Wasn't it? 1995. No, it wasn't. Wasn't he 1995? No, he wasn't. 2005. So, no. Did I screw it up? It was 1995. That was the family proclamation. And he did the smaller temples. Yeah, because that was 1995. So no, it wasn't. It was 2008. Okay, it is screwed up. I have to make a correction. I should have done the... man. So 13 years. So that screws it up. Okay. So there's an anomaly. And so now I have to run a theory test to go back and redo it, because I have to scrap it from that video. But 13, I do see a pattern with something else on that date. Because Monson, he was... was Monson involved? I gotta check. Okay, which one is it? Nope, that's not it. That's Nelson's birthday. Yeah, that's there's no way. That's God. Whatever, whoever, that, there's no way Nelson can know this. Where is it? Please tell me I didn't get rid of it. Oh, I didn't can get rid of it, but I mean... What was Monson with 9? It was the 21st of August, 2000, or 1924, but then, did he die 9 months later? It wasn't 9 months. It was in January, August, September, October, November, December, January, 5 months. What was him with 9? Something with him with 9. Because Nelson has 9. Do you know his birthday? 9-9. And 9-9 was not 9-9. It was originally 9-7, or yeah, well, 9-7, depending on if you use the old English version of putting the date first and then the month. 9-7. He's 97 years old right now. What was Monson's 9? There was a 9. Annoying me now. Was Monson? No, Monson is not 9. He was 2008 to 2018, which is 10. That's interesting. Is it? No, it's not the Jewish month. That's this month, is the 9. And there's a Friday the 13th in Jewish calendar. It's bugging me now. I can't look it up on the video. I can, I guess, if I pull up the other video thing. I'm surprised it's not here, which means I have to find it in the snapshot thing. Because it got transferred. No, it's not there. It's bugging me. I'm way past time. Where is it? Final video. Nope, I did that one. Church finally destroys me. Mormon scripture. And heaven, death of false prophet. There it is. Okay, hold on. You're going to hear me in the background. We'll try to skip ahead to where it was. Thou art in perils, that's the death threat. Okay, all this is silent. There it is, there it is. Okay, wait a minute. Yeah, it's a 13-year I gotta take that out and redo it. Died, there it is. He died at 90 years old. So there's the pattern. 13-year presidency, Friday the 13th in the Jewish calendar. There's the pattern. 9 months, died at 90 years old. Hinckley was 13-year presidency. Nelson, born 9-9 or 9-7, depending on whether September means 7 months or 9 months. And then the 13th. Okay, so there is a pattern still. We have fixed it. This is how you do it. When you see an anomaly, you got to explain it somehow, and you look for patterns. And so that I just gave you an example of how I do things. That's how you're supposed to do it. So yeah, that's now weirder. And so I must have been thinking, wait a minute. It was Benson. Benson was 9 years? We gotta check. If that Benson's 9 years, we gotta put that in that correction. Ezra Taft Benson. Okay. Hold on here. Alright. He died May 30th, 1994, and that he's on the lunar eclipse dead pool of God. See, God is pissed. He's been telling us the whole time, and we just have been deceived by the church. 1994. Okay, so now let's find out when he became a president of the church after Kimball died. 85? Yep, that's it. Yep, November 10th, 1985 to May 30th, 1994. That was where I was getting confused. Benson was 9 years. Hunter was 9 months. I was thinking, oh, this is interesting. Is Hinckley going to be 9 days? So here you are, breaking information. Benson, 9 years. There it is. Dear God. Okay, so we got to put that in. And I'm not doing it for the others. If there are more 9s involved, great. So, yeah, I'll have to come back after I do my laundry and put that in to continue on, because there's more to decode for you. We just did April 8th, 2024. We still have to help you with figuring out the first part of the Book of Mormon, which is essential. So, yep. But there's a reason now. You should now see why Jesus comes to Nephi, makes him the Christ, because Jesus doesn't stick around. Nephi becomes the Christ. He's the one in charge. And he tells Nephi, show me the records. Where's the record of the name of God, the Lamanite? Didn't he talk about my coming? Where is it? Oh, we'll write it right away. Now you know. Nephi is the new name. Jesus is the code name. And Samuel is the name of God. Not actually said. It just means name of God, which is Amen, the sun at noonday. Adam Ondai Amen. So, yeah, we'll come back and we'll go over 1 Nephi chapter 1. Huh. Okay. I now have about 25 minutes. So I'll have to switch loads. I was thinking about Hinckley with the 13 years as president, which does fit the pattern for the specific day, which is 99 days, right? Yeah, 99 days. So Benson, 9 years in presidency. Hunter, 9 months in the presidency. Hinckley, 13 years in this presidency. There's more. And Monson dies at 90 years old. And now Nelson, born 9/9, which is also 9/7, which he's 97 years old. And 99 days from his birthday on 9/9 is Friday the 13th in the Jewish calendar, when Hinckley died at 97 years old. Huh. 13 years, 97 years old. Friday the 13th, 97 years old. Again, more patterns. You cannot make this up. They can't alter it. This is what happened. They can't change that. They can't alter it. God determines this. And so even though Hinckley died on January 27th, you can, fudge the numbers to say, well, 2 plus 7 is 9. No, that's going beyond the mark. You can't, that ruins the pattern. That creates its own pattern, and you have to then justify it with other... No. Can't do that. But 97 years when he died, 13 years, hell yeah. Friday the 13th of the Jews this year, in this month, 97 years old, yeah, that's a pattern. And so, yeah, I need to change that. I need to write that down so I don't forget to change that. Change. And so maybe I should just bring that out. I'm not doing anything today. Remember? The church sent me the death threat and have followed through on it on the 5th dark day of Hanukkah. And so, no. So I'm not going anywhere today. And change nines. So yeah, maybe I'll make that change after I get this taken care of, if it doesn't take me all day to upload it on YouTube. We'll see about the processing time. Oh, sorry, it's going to take 24 hours to process this 4-hour video, is what it's now looking like it's going to be. Alright, let's get rid of this. Dear God. And like I told you, there's patterns with lunar eclipses and the deaths of the presidents of the church from Brigham Young. And yes, Joseph was involved, but his was murder by those who now have a pattern. So it was not Joseph's fault. Joseph Smith could have lived on had Brigham Young and Heber not paid the 30 or 20 pieces of silver for Joseph Smith's assassination. Wow. That is more intense. So, yeah, we'll just bring it out. It's the 17th of December. Tishri. I go over it in the video, and it looks like I'll bring it up. I had Random Muse reach out to me with a little bit on the Tau of Hebrew, which is the last letter of the alphabet, and is the T, Tau, because of Sir Alan Gardner's acronym theory. Dumb. But Mark has the Aleph and the Tau, the first and last letter. And so when Jacob the usurper is telling us in the Book of Mormon that the Jews look beyond the mark, he's referring to Jewish mysticism. I'm decoding it for you right here, right now. And so that didn't start until 600 AD CE. Remember? So it was not had 600 BCE. Oh, Jewish mysticism is transposed into the CEs rather than BCEs. Oh, you see what's going on here? And that's important when you start off with the Book of Mormon, because where's the setting? Yeah, it's technically 597, and 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem is 4 AD CE on 8 April, when the total solar eclipse occurred in Russia. And there's a reason why they brought that up, and why the Jews are being brought up, and Babylon is being brought up, because of the video I did. Because those holy day, remembrance days, technically, they're not holy days, those remembrance days are this month. The first one, anyway. and then the one where they're actually destroyed, the temple's destroyed and taken captive into Babylon, that's in the reverse pattern. Because there's civil calendar and religious calendar for the Jews. And a month is a certain number in the religious calendar, but it's a different number in the civil calendar. And so, yeah, there's a reversing with the different Babylonian captivities, or conquering, or sieging. So, yeah, that, like I said, all fields converge on this one date, December 17th. And I don't think Nelson can protect himself. I've watched, after being inspired with that video, I watched a Final Destination, the whole thing, all 5. And yeah, you can't cheat death. When it's your appointed time. That's supposed to be the theme song for that. I don't know if I remembered to keep that paper of the theme songs. But yeah, the birds turn, and it's a quote from Ecclesiastes, and then 9 Inch Nails from Final Destination. Final Destination. So yeah, I think it's okay to tell Nelson. But you can see the patterns. 99, 99, 13, 97. Hike. Hut. Alrighty. And so this first section is actually on the plates, the Egyptian gold plates of the Knights Templar. And so already the church history is clearing this up for us. The Book of Mormon needs to be read by those who know about the Knights Templar and Jewish mysticism, as we find out. An account of Lehi and his wife Sariah and his 4 sons, being called, beginning at the eldest, Laman, Lemuel, Sam, and Nephi. Notice Nephi puts his name in here. Notice there's an upcoming verse where he does not put his name in here. He's born that year. This first year. There's a reason why he's born, whereas the movie versions that the church is doing, the cartoon versions that have been done before, that Mormon who did an attempt to do the Book of Mormon movie series and failed, and then my ancestor or relative in Australia was trying to work on the Book of Mormon series, and he couldn't get it done and couldn't get it figured out. It's real easy. You just follow the National Treasure, Dan Brown, any others, to do that. Include Joseph Smith history with this. It's real simple. It's an apocalyptic movie, like Schwarzenegger's End of Days. Alright. And so and then he closes, and in other words, I, Nephi, wrote this record. And so Nephi is the son of Lehi. This needs to be understood. This is the rewrite of the 116 pages because Jr lost them. And so, as we now know, right? I know, I've been telling you guys, Sr is the one who rewrote the 116 pages. And so he's got it planned still to have Jr be the guy, as the church was founded with him as the founder, and 5 others, so that there's 6 for the Jewish Star of Amen, the sun at noonday, rather than the 5-pointed inverted pentagram of the Illuminati Lucifer. And I did that video for you. Let's see. So I've been born of goodly parents. Therefore, I was taught somewhat in the learning of my father. And so this is Senior speaking as Junior, talking about himself. He makes a record because William Morgan had to be fled out of the country. And Senior takes over the responsibility of making sure this book gets published so that we will know and be warned about what's going on right now as we find out the specific dates right here in the first chapter of the Book of Mormon. And so, yeah, I make a record in the language of my father, Joseph Smith Sr., which consists of the learning of the Jews, Jewish mysticism, 600 CE with the alphabet Ben Sira and Lilith from the Heliopolis creation glyph of As She Is Nut. The darkness of night with the stars that have to light her up. The signs in the heavens. And the language of the Egyptians. There's the Knights Templar. I mean, the learning of the Jews, like I went over, the Heliopolis creation glyph, that's Egyptian, but the Knights Templar. It's the 18th dynasty of David Moses. David Moseses. And I've gone over with you how David Moses IV was involved in Armageddon with the Hittites. Stopped over at Jerusalem. They had no temple then. It was just a little village. And there he stayed. And so, no, there was no palace or anything for him to overlook the roofs to see little haughty Bathsheba, who's already married, and then commits adultery with her. They lose their firstborn son. That is interesting, but has no connection to the Smiths. The pattern doesn't fit, other than they lost the firstborn sons. And then Solomon was the secondborn, because he had to now take care of her now that he killed off Uriah, her husband. But then Nathan condemned him. It'd be nice to have a prophet of God condemn our presidents when they go astray. Oh no, they might lock us in jail like Jeremiah. Really? You're afraid of them? More so than God, huh? Okay. And so he's setting it up here for us. And the record I make is true. And true has multiple meanings. It means sound. But it also means accurate. Correct information. But it's coded as I'm going over it with it. And so even though it's not true, it is true when you decode it. Can't take it literal history. You first have to decode it, then you can go, oh, okay, that's what happened. Got it. And I make it with my own hand, according to my knowledge. But it's because of the having William Morgan flee and him taking responsibility. And so here we go, verse 4. For it came to pass in the commencement of the first year of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah. That's technically 597 BCE. Where's that 97? That's interesting. That is a coincidental pattern, I think. Because 5 for pentagrams, which are inverted, and then 97. It's somewhat of a stretch, but it fits weirdly enough. but 600, with the Jewish mysticism starting at 600. King of Utah. Like I said, this is weird. This could not have been known to the Smiths. This is just a coincidental connection. And it's weird. I can't explain this anomaly pattern. Other than, and I can't explain that, so I can't give you any kind of patterns for that existence. And so, yeah, this is freaky weird. As you're going over it with me, brand new, right here, right now. And so, he's a theocratic leader, but he's put on by Babylon. He's a puppet king. He's supposed to give tribute to Babylon now, no more to Egypt. Because Babylon came in, took siege, and did he kill him, or did they take the other king hostage back to Babylon? I think they took him back to Babylon. But I'd have to read the Bible on that. So don't quote me. Fact check me. And Zedekiah is put on. And Zadok is righteousness. It's also the high priest. Versus the Aaronic priesthood, the Zadoks were the high priests that Moses did away with from section 84 or 88. I've gone over that when I went over Ammon with you. The Ammon priesthood. Because Zadok is king and priest, and that's the name of Ammon. A sacred secret name that had to be replaced with Melchizedek because of too frequent use of Ammon, which the sun god Ammon from the Egyptians, etc., etc. And so knowing all that knowledge that I have helps me pick up stuff that you guys who have never learned any of this stuff, this is all brand new to you, and I don't know how you're taking it. If you're listening still, wow. You really want to learn, don't you? Thanks. But because I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, because I deciphered the Egyptian characters that are not deciphered by Egyptologists, and connected it and all the stuff, and found out that the Bible stories come from the Egyptian stories and petroglyphs that weren't translated, etc., etc., etc. And the knowing Joseph Smith history and all this, I see what you don't. And so remember, this is the first year when a king is put on the throne by Babylon, but it's coded. And so here we go. My father Lehi, and then this technically would be Joseph Smith Sr. Having dwelt at Jerusalem in all his days, United States of America, and in that same year there came many prophets, prophesying unto the people that they must repent, or the great city of Jerusalem must be destroyed. Now, it's now talking about the city, whereas it's also the land of Jerusalem mentioned in the Book of Mormon. So he has a house at Jerusalem, but it's also synonymous with Judah, which is Utah. So he's sort of screwing up what it actually was. Jerusalem was the city in the land of Judah, if we're going to be historically accurate. But this is not historically accurate. There are errors here. And those errors are not errors, they're code. And so as much as ex-Mormons think that, oh yeah, the Book of Mormon is fake and false and the church isn't true, you guys missed the point, and the church wants you to miss the point. Because when all things are said and done, and you survive, you'll only have the church to deal with, if they win. But I'm very curious to see what else happens on the 17th. And again, this is just the theory test. I've collected all the data for the theory, developed the theory, had to make some corrections, as you saw, with the 13th for 13 years for Hinckley, but then went, oh, there's the 97. And a new pattern had to be put in to the equation, but still, the date is still firm. But the date hasn't happened yet. See, with all the prophets connected with lunar eclipses, yeah, I found out there is a pattern, but it was in retrospect. I went back to figure that out. This is now something in the future, and like I said, everything points to it. And very clear, God is pissed. Whoever he or she or it is. If death ain't a thing, maybe God isn't a thing either. But again, because he hasn't materialized, manifested himself in the flesh, we don't know. And so we can't develop a theory because we don't have anything to develop a theory with. And so we can't test anything, and so this is frustrating. But things are happening, and it's weird. And so he says, King of Judah, which is the land of Judah, and Lehi is dwelling in the land of Jerusalem. But then he says the great city of Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. And interestingly, Babylon only destroyed the city. They didn't destroy the surrounding villages. So that's important to understand when you read over and try to decode, which should be simple now. Section 101, starting in verse 43, the parable that he has. As well as section 45 as well. I've got to change the... Alright, so we got to take a break here by force. Alright, so yeah, we'll come back and we'll go over his star dates that he gives us from the book of Revelation. Alright, so now I've got an hour. At least. So, to again remind you of the pattern, we can't throw in random people, although we should test to see if random people likewise fulfill the theory test, which then presents its own unique anomaly pattern. But for me, for example, my apartment number is number 9. Oh no! Is it me? Well, yeah, the church finished me off. But I'm not the leader of the church. And so even though my first marriage was on Friday the 13th, we were sealed in the Cardston, Alberta temple. And my second marriage, because the first one dissolved, polygamy, no longer practiced until Nelson has now brought it back. But I got remarried in 2015, October 1st, to the woman I'm now annulled from for in room number 13 of the Salt Lake Temple. So as much as there are many people who share numbers with this pattern, I'm an anomaly because I'm not necessarily involved, unless you want to throw in Deuteronomy 19, That which you falsely accuse in others reveals the same and worse fault in yourself, for which you are then going to be punished for what you had assigned the punishment to the falsely accused. That's in the video that you have not received. And so whether I bring it out, we'll see about the time frame here, because we are going on 4 hours, aren't we? And so, are you catching on so far as to how to incorporate the correct history of the church with Jewish mysticism and Knights Templar of the York Rites that Smith was involved with? Do you see how knowing that helps you decode the Book of Mormon, as we decoded the Joseph Smith history, which then helps us to decode also the Book of Mormon? And yes, the Doctrine and Covenants, as I've gone over with you, but the Doctrine and Covenants has some parts where Joseph Smith comes out and gives us the decoding, like the true Christ, who is supposed to be a Mormon. And so, knowing that, then to go into Joseph's thinking, the whole Bible are prophecies, apocalyptic literature, and prophecies of this Mormon Christ who will come out of the great and abominable church that will take over Joseph after his murder. So, Lehi now has dates. Remember, this is Senior. So he's going around preaching, telling people Jerusalem's going to be destroyed with the other prophets. So he comes back. He's worn out by the Spirit after seeing a pillar of fire on a rock. That's not code. I don't know what else would be. Surprised there is no hat involved. But now do you see? Jr. was just using it as a game. And so Smith Sr. said, we're going to use that as our cover story. Because that ties Jr. and rocks in a hat and translation, Egyptian gold treasure plates, to also Jewish mysticism. So he's freaked out with the destruction from what he saw and heard in the glowing rock, the crystal ball, and returns to his house at Jerusalem and goes to sleep. He's overcome with the Spirit, and now he has a vision or a dream. They're interchangeable. And so he sees the heavens opened. It's a sign in the heavens. And he gets this from Revelation 12 and 19. Both of them are merged into one in these few passages here. Because the Book of Mormon tells us they're referring to John, the apostle of the Lamb, the Last Supper of the Lamb, or goat, or ram, as I've gone over with you. Did the whole video on it. God sitting upon his throne. Revelation 12, which was moved from verse 5 to verse 3 in the revised version of the Bible for that passage. And so then he sees one descending, just like Jesus in 11:8, out of heaven. Luster was above that of the sun at noonday. Amen. Isaiah calls him Emmanuel. And he saw 12 others following him. Okay, well now we've started with God sitting upon his throne from chapter 12. And then one descending is Revelation 19, the sun and noonday, and now we're going back to 12 others following him. That's the crown on Virgo of 12 stars from the constellation of Leo, which Leo is the symbol of Judah, which is Utah, who betrayed Joseph, who betrayed Jesus. And there's even a connection as Jacob the usurper, who is now called Israel, Prince of God, not let God prevail. Dear God. He usurps the lineage from whom the latter-day Christ is supposed to come. So Esau, nope, not through him anymore. Thus, Prince of God. But Esau marries a Judith, a Canaanite woman, Philistine, and calls their firstborn sun god. God of the sun. So you can see that the Bible author does know things. He's just not fully able to give it to us, unless it's just for storytelling time and it's supposed to be decoded, as that's his version of events. But there are some differences. Instead of a salad with special sauce, it's porridge that is given to Esau to give away his birthright. But they came down upon the face of the earth, stood before Smith Sr., gave unto him a book, and bade that he should read. This is apocalyptic literature style, but it's also showing about William Morgan. William Morgan is the representation of the Christ here, because he usurped the information and is writing the book and is showing it to Smith Sr. in Canandaigua, New York. And then as Smith Sr. is listening to William Morgan, he's filled with the Spirit of the Lord. And it's about the destruction of America. The land of America. The land of Jerusalem. And so the city, if we're going to call it the government, not the religion capital. And isn't it interesting, the religion capital of the great and abominable church is in the west, and the government capital is in the east, with that inverted pentagram saying, "We will conquer you." And that actually, the street design came out after they were indeed conquered. After the Civil War. Even though the Confederates lost, there were still... Okay. They turned America in that one act into a business corporation. That it should be destroyed. The inhabitants thereof should be perished by the sword, carried away captive into Babylon. And so here we have Babylon. It's the foreign government that put Zedekiah on the throne in the first year of the latter days. Because 12, that's 23 September 2017. 19, 8 April 2024. 2020 years after 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem in 4 AD, 8 April 597. Which 600, to round it off, is from when Jewish mysticism was organized. And so he's saying that God is great and merciful, And so here Nephi now steps in to say, I do not make a full account of the things which my father hath written. Or in other words, do not have the full book of William Morgan. So this is just an abridgment, as it only had 116 pages. Alright, so yeah, the Jews did mock him, and because he testified of their wickedness and abominations. Isn't that interesting how Mormons have combined to commit felonies against me for the church? And yeah, I don't know if he's going to be able to stop what's coming. Saw and things he heard. Manifested plainly of the coming of a Messiah. A Messiah, not the Messiah. Notice that? We are looking from the current edition. We are not looking from the original 1830 edition. That needs to be understood. And so there are differences, but where those differences are, I have to have it side by side here. So just understand that. We might have to do some editing, but the theory is still sound, as the confirmations have confirmed it. And so when the Jews are hearing about this other Messiah, like Mormons, yeah, Jesus is not your Messiah, guys. Mormons get angry. They want to kill him. They want to cast him out of Utah. Yep, sure enough, the pattern fits. Prophecy fulfilled. So let's, for the sake of time, because we're pretty much finished here. Like I said, I can keep going, translating or decoding the whole book for you. Translation is code for decoding or encoding, or decoding the encoded coding. Let's take you to Ether. Is it Ether? Or is it in Moroni? It is in Moroni. No. It is not. It is in Ether. So where in Ether is it? So is it a 9? No. No. Son of Righteousness, Yah-Zadok, and Zedekiah, real Zedekiah. Oh, yeah, it is. In verse 8, in Ether, at the end, wherefore I, Moroni, am commanded to write these things. Not so much commanded in that he took on the responsibility to make sure that, unless Sidney Rigdon's talking to her. But he's the one just doing the writing, dictating it as he's working with all the other publications. Good. Brief distraction. I don't need to stop the video for this because it's a new season. Although I do have to type in He is commanded to write these things that evil may be done away. You've heard the prophecies say that the second coming and the destructions that occur have to happen in order for the millennial reign of peace. And people assume that, well, it's not in our control, there's nothing we can do about it. Jesus is going to take care of all of it, and everything will be fine, and we don't have to lift a finger. We don't have to say a word. But pay attention to what he's saying here in verse 26 at the end of Ether chapter 8. Because this is a whole new concept and tells us about prophecy. That our agency is not necessarily taken except in this one date that's coming. That evil may be done away with, and that the time may come, doesn't say will come, that Satan may have no power, and this is Lucifer of the Illuminati, who are deceiving people and subjecting them to bondage, etc., 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 may have no power over the hearts of the children of men, but that they may be persuaded to do good continually, that they may come unto the fountain of all righteousness and be saved. See that dichotomy played out in the Book of Mormon. They're saying that may happen that if people remain wicked and do not get persuaded to do good continually, that evil will win, that the earth will be destroyed and wasted at his coming. The entire destruction of the people. But they are writing this book to warn so that evil can be conquered. People will do good and establish Zion and New Jerusalem. That people, through being good, will make it so. Will build it. Because if this one man is capable of building it, all by himself, with nobody else helping, are people really going to come? Not familiar about the story of the little red hen? She planted crops because nobody else wanted to help her. She had to take care of the crops as they were growing because nobody wanted to help her. And then she had to harvest all by herself because nobody wanted to help her. And then she had to bake all the goodies because nobody wanted to help her. And then when she was finished, oh yeah, everybody wanted to eat them. Nobody wants to do the work, but everybody wants to be blessed. And this is what that is referring to here in verse 26. You guys will be at a crossroads. That the Illuminati will have power over your hearts. But you need to wake up and say, no more. I want to do good. I want to stop hurting people. And unless that happens, that's what we're looking at. Alrighty. So that's the Book of Mormon in a nutshell. There's other parts. Captain Moroni. You should now figure that one out. That's already happened. And we sort of missed it. It didn't work out. We may be having a reprieve. You may be given a second chance on this one. We have to find out. Because Captain Moroni is the Christ symbol. That's his code. He's now Captain Moroni of the army. And the war talked about in chapter 19 of Revelation. The Latter Days War. And there's an election that took place back in Zarahemla, the capital city. And the kingmen, those who wanted to restore a monarchy, tried to overthrow the election to do away with the laws of Mosiah, the written laws of Mosiah, like a constitution, with the reign of the judges. So, yeah, Ether likewise was in his cave, recording the entire destruction of the people. Mormons were involved in that on January 6th. Alright, so, yeah, I've gone over with you how I've fulfilled Moroni and Ether, as both of them recorded the entire history of the people, the destruction of the people. That's what I'm doing. That's what I've done. So, alrighty, 4 hours. Is that enough for you? We'll see if I can get the other one out. Yeah, don't take things literally. Look for the patterns. These are all about the latter days. And so the main hero of the story is the Christ. And then the people are the Mormons or Americans, depending on the context of the story, whether it's about a government issue or if it's about a religious issue. And I don't think I released it. Maybe I did, unless it's one of those that I held back. The wars in the Book of Mormon. I give you breaking news right there in the video that ties in to the Latter-day War. And then it's actually helping to give strategic advice of how to win the war. So there's a reason why there's bloodshed in the Book of Mormon. Alrighty, so here's Jared was anointed king over the people by the hand of wickedness. So again, like Zedekiah, the first year when Nephi was born, September 23rd, 2017, the birth of Jupiter, the man-child Christ. Alrighty, I mean, yeah, it requires a lot of knowledge on your part, but if you stick to the basics, you know, the major hero is the Christ, and then whether it's a religious matter or a government matter, you can see how it applies to what's been going on. And like I said, everything's been happening so far. For 2017, in government and in religion, yep, everything's happened. All the way up until 2021, as I thought for sure we were having the Exodus this year, but it looks like you guys are getting a second chance. Maybe. We'll have to see. Because the 17th I'm paying attention to right now. That's the test. To see if anything happens on the 17th. Nothing happens on the 17th, then I got to go back, review the theory, and figure out what happened, what I missed. That's what you do. Because obviously it wouldn't have come true if it doesn't happen on the 17th. Do I need to go over with you? Again, Deuteronomy 18 talks about two people. One of them is the Christ, the other is the false prophet. Joseph Smith, section 85. Verse 7 is the man like Moses, the true prophet, one mighty and strong, restores the temple. Really? restores Joseph's temple that Joseph restored. And then verse 8 is the false prophet who has Joseph Smith murdered and blah blah blah. So that's how you decode that. So unfortunately, Joseph Smith Sr. got it wrong, as he never even came to a conclusion anyway. He just said it wasn't him. He's not verse 8. He knows that much for sure. And he's partially right, but yeah, he died under a lunar eclipse too. Alrighty, because yeah, the sun is supposed to be darkened, moon turned to blood. And Joseph Smith knows we're supposed to get to Southern Illinois. But if we have nobody righteous, it ain't gonna happen. People have to be persuaded to do good continually, so that they may come unto the fountain of all righteousness and be saved. Yeah, I do the signs in the heavens in that one too.